Welcome back to the AV Club, a Mythos Busters production. We have survived the Forgotten Age and are looking at which cards, Nick?
Survivor cards.
Oh, right, because we survived. Thanks. Glad you like puns. Sean, how are you?
I'm great, but
That was great.
What?
that was an extremely delayed rim shot. I don't know what to tell you.
Good thing these cards are red, because we are on fire tonight.
I'll give you a 5 for that recovery.
You know who doesn't? You know who doesn't have fives? Calvin.
I mean, that's so true.
Accurate.
You can't hate me for just telling the truth. So our survivor investigator, who is by far the most straightforward and non-divisional, I guess, divisive. Thank you. Investigator of all time, Calvin Wright, the Haunted. He has a willpower of 0, intellect of 0, combat of 0, and agility of 0. He's cursed and drifter. You get +1 willpower and +1 intellect for each horror on you, +1 combat, +1 agility for each damage on you. His elder sign is +0, and you may either heal 1 damage or 1 horror, or take a direct damage or direct horror. And he has 6 health, 6 sanity. Deck building. We just flip that over. Standard deck size of 30. Survivor cards 0 to 5. Neutral 0 to 5. And spirit cards 0 to 3.
More like Calvin wrong.
Ooh, that is harsh.
Strong feelings.
No, I just am very passionate about puns.
I was super hot on Calvin to start.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's kind of waned a bit. Like if you want to use the tier system, like I'd say like tier 2, 1.5-ish.
Out of
how many tiers are there?
Yeah, how many do you
Okay,
do?
so
3 or 5?
Well, there's tier S, which is like Agnes, like just bonkers good. And then you have tier 1, 2, 3, 4. And 4 to me is like, well, if I say tier 5, that's like garbage, like coaster.
Like you actually should not play with them.
Yes.
So who would be a tier 5?
Is this a Canadian grading system, by the way?
Yeah, because this is terrible. Like
this.
it's like you kind of went for the Japanese like style, like
Yeah,
character
the
action
S, and
rating.
then A, B, C, D, E.
But you didn't do A, B, C, D. You went S, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, and then you even added 5.
I'm giving Calvin an alligator.
I'm giving Calvin a Z.
Oh God.
So is he coaster? Is he coaster level investigator? Is he that bad to you now?
No, I don't think so at all. I think he's decent. He's a puzzle. He's extremely fun to play.
Yes.
I think playing him is possibly the most fun I have making decisions. Also possibly because some of those decisions are incredibly difficult because you don't know what's going to happen. Like action to action, your stats change. Building him is interesting. He's a lot more fun, I think, standalone than campaign.
Yes. I think playing Calvin in a campaign is an exercise in the most intense frustration you will feel, because you will either pass handily, like scenario after scenario, or you will fail miserably. There doesn't seem to be any middle ground for him, in my experience.
Yeah, I think you're pretty close to right for the most part.
Spelled with a W.
No. Yeah, that's the Canadian way. No. Sean, what do you think, Calvin?
I've only played him a couple times. I did a campaign with him, and then I've taken him as standalone. I feel like I agree with Nick's assertion that he's generally better standalone. Because dealing with the trauma adds just another level of uncertainty and kind of swinging by the whims of the chaos bag. The one thing I will say is at least his spirit access really does something for him.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
Did he need 6 and 6? Would he have been busted at 7 and 7?
I don't think no, because how often do you get to 5 and then use it? Like you use it for like a turn and that's it, right? Like when you get to 5 damage, you're not there very long before you're out or you're done with the scenario. In my experience,
yeah,
I think he would have been fine at 7 and 7.
Because I mean, even if someone like you go, Key of Ease is a great card, but if you don't have action compression to back it up, there's still only so much you can do with one action, even if you're almost guaranteed to succeed.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so I don't know. I feel like if he needs a little bit more support, I think the tarot card that's coming out in later days is going to do wonders for him.
I was just going to say that, like, putting him to a 7/7 is pretty good.
But yeah, I would generally agree that he's fun. He's a cool thought experiment and puzzle to play with. But if I have the strong intention to win a campaign, he would not be among my top choices to play.
Yeah.
I think he's still winnable as far as campaigns go.
Oh, yeah. I mean, he can win.
It's possible. Yeah. Oh, it's totally possible. It's just not probable.
I mean, a broken clock is right twice a day.
Someone has to come last in the Olympics, right? That's
jeez.
Is he better than Skids though, or better than Lola?
I would say he's.
Lola.
Oh man,
he's probably more cohesive than Lola. Lola will have her time.
Yes.
Lola's got like way more ahead in her future when the card pool gets huge, I think. But
Calvin's card pool is going to grow, and the cards that are good for him are going to grow slowly. Lola gets like crazy variety all the time. Until the end of time.
Perfect.
Yep.
Every time.
Nick.
Yes.
Can you read this card Until the End of Time?
I can.
Okay.
Until the End of Time is a 1 resource cost asset. It has combat and wild skill icons. It is talent traded, and its game text reads, Calvin Wright deck only. Direct damage and direct horror may be assigned to Until the End of Time. And it provides 2 health and 2 sanity. This is Jim, but next level. The difference between Calvin without Until the End of Time and with Until the End of Time is paramount to his success.
And this is where a 7/7 Calvin could become dangerous, because if you get him 6 across the board and you still have like an undamaged Until the End of Time out, you don't lose pretty much. But the fact that it's a one of, I still think he could have gone to 7/7. But we're talking about Till the End of Time. Insanely good. And insanely good art. Possibly in my top 3 in this game.
What's the other 2?
Eager for Death.
Eager for Death. Knew it.
What would be my 3rd? I'm not sure, but it's Eager for Death Until the End of Time. For sure. Yeah.
Good top 2.
Yeah, I would agree. This is definitely one of those assets that takes... when you draw it, you're like, okay, things are better now.
Yeah. Now the real game can start.
I'm 50% more likely to end this game successfully.
I don't know what else there is to say.
There's no decision making around this card. When you have it, you play it. When you don't, you lose. So
yeah, that's...
You know what we haven't talked about actually in the last couple episodes is with these the signature cards is, do you chuck them to skill test or do you actually play them? You never chuck this. Like, this is you're dumb if you do.
If you're chucking this to a skill test, either something has gone terribly awry or you're so far ahead of it that you don't care.
Yeah.
But you should still probably just play it.
Yep.
And cool. I guess, especially if you hear the voice of the messenger, right?
What voice is that, Sean?
The voice of the messenger?
Could you read the message?
The voice of the messenger! A little POD reference for you there.
Oh my god.
Yeah, you got it.
I need to listen to POD again.
Yeah, that was also a POD reference. Oh my god.
Oh my jaw. Oh. All right. Voice of the messenger is, of course, Calvin's signature treachery. It's a weakness, of course. It is curse and pact traded. Revelation, you must either choose one, take 1 direct damage and suffer 1 physical trauma, or take 1 direct horror and suffer 1 mental trauma.
Do you guys remember Youth of the Nation?
Yeah,
that was a good song. All right, anyway.
I should have said I do.
This is one of those weird weaknesses that
can be
super beneficial.
In the early campaign, I'm almost glad to see it. Yeah. But then late campaign, this is something you're like, oh god, I don't want to draw a card.
This also forced me to look up the rules that when you take a trauma in the middle of a game, does that actually stack the token on your character? And it does not. Because the first time I played Calvin, I think I played it that way, where I was like, sweet, I'm combat +2 now. But
yeah, trauma just goes in the campaign log. Yeah, this is a very interesting weakness too, because it gives you a choice, which is very rare, and it's two almost equal choices at face value. It's not like Agnes's, where it's like play this and add a doom or take 2 horror. Like those are two very different options, right?
Right. And also just very bad in different ways.
Yeah, and Calvin's or not Calvin, Silas's also kind of a choice, and it's terrible. This one, I think there's a lot of strategy to making this choice. Choosing long-term benefit over short-term benefit. Like, depending on where you are with Calvin in your game versus where you are with Calvin in your campaign, and how much trauma do you have versus what do you need in this game. Do you need the combat boost? Do you need the investigation boost or the intellect? Versus, are you risking, like, do I already have 4 trauma in
I was
something?
just going to say, so have you, I don't know how extensive your experience with Calvin is, but do you take this and deal the damage when you're at 4 damage already, or deal the horror when you're at 4 already? Like, or is this something that you always pick what's the lower of the 2?
I think it kind of depends what I need to do in the immediate future, and like Scott said, kind of where I'm at for the campaign. If I'm at 3 physical already and 1 mental, like, I might look at the mental. But if I really need to kill this enemy right now, and I might die to physical trauma if I don't anyway, like, okay. It's an interesting decision.
Yeah.
I usually, if I'm in the early parts of the campaign, when trauma's low, I go with what do I need most in the game. Near the end of the campaign or middle to end, I'm always just looking at trauma.
Yeah, I agree. Starting like scenario 3 or 4 usually, and the last time I played Calvin was solo through TFA, so it was a particularly bad shit show. So yeah, scenario 4 was when I was like, ooh, and then it's just, what's my trauma? Okay, we'll go with the lower one.
I guess the risk too is if you choose that as well. Like, let's say, Sean's example, you're at 3 physical, 1 mental, but in the game you're at like 4 or 5 sanity damage, and you're at 1 physical damage. Like, well, I'd really like to take it. Or and you're at 1 damage. You're like, well, I'd really like to take the damage, but that puts me at 4 trauma. But if I take the horror, now I'm at 4 sanity trauma.
Right.
Mental trauma. Those terms.
Yeah.
So it can be a really tough choice.
Yep.
And in standalone, it's another tool in your toolbox.
Yeah, in standalone, this is almost really, nothing.
It's actually a benefit in standalone.
Yeah. Speaking of toolboxes, if you don't have your toolbox with you, Sean, what could you use?
I don't know, but I'll have to improvise something. Like a weapon. Because it's improvised weapon, it's a level 0 survivor event. It costs 1. It is tactic and improvised traded. You may play improvised weapon from your discard pile. If you do, shuffle it into your deck after resolving its effect. Fight! The attacked enemy gets -1 fight for this attack. And if you played improvised weapon from your discard pile, this attack deals +1 damage. So this one's interesting.
I was going to say,
there's a couple niche spots for this one, I would feel. Any survivor deck that is kind of leaning into the discard from your hand play. Oddly enough, probably not Wendy, though.
Yep.
Yeah.
But a card we'll look at later called Cornered, or, that's kind of been a theme for survivors since the core, is digging stuff out of your discard and
or discarding cards for benefit.
Right.
Yeah.
So I assume we'll get kind of more things that play with that as we go on, and then this card gets better. As it stands, it's kind of in a weird spot for someone who's not doing that. Because, okay, so say you're not discarding it and playing it straight from your discard pile. 2 actions, 2 resources, just 3 damage. That's not terrible. But I think most investigators who would look to fight an enemy honestly like this have better options.
Yes, I think that's what it comes down to. I'm going to reference cards that we haven't talked about on AV Club yet, but of the 3 that are kind of this theme, where you can play them from hand or discard pile, when you play them from discard pile, they're generally a little bit better, and they shuffle back in. Is this the worst one?
For survivors, I think so.
There's only the 3, the impromptu barrier, improvised
weapon. But I mean, for
and
survivor investigators?
I just mean in general, just looking at the card and thinking about its uses. Because impromptu barrier, what's the bonus? It lets you evade an additional enemy, right? If you succeed by a certain amount.
A lot, yeah.
Right. And this one, and then winging it is easily the best, because everybody plays winging it. I think I use this one the least out of the 3 of them.
I think this one comes in second place, particularly because Mark can use it.
And and that's pretty much the only place I've ever.
But why would Mark need this?
Because
why would Mark
to
save? Well, but he's got access to machete. He's got access to survival knife, time-worn brand. Is that an agility weapon?
Well, yeah, but Nick, as a giant proponent of both shotgun and bar, you can appreciate the fact that those things would interfere, and maybe you don't always want to take Bandolier. I think
why not? You're Mark.
I think Mark specifically, just because he draws so many cards that, you draw into this and it sits in your hand for a little bit usually, but then when you fill your hand up, you get past 8, you're like, well, yeah, I'll gladly throw this in my discard pile. That's fine.
Oh, that's so bad though. That that's terrible. Like if the saving grace is that you can discard it at the end of the turn and you don't feel bad.
Well, yeah, but it's better in your discard pile.
Sean, you've played Guardian, right? There's a lot of good cards to throw in a level 0 Guardian deck.
I've played a lot of Mark, and I will say I don't go 2 of. That's a waste of space at 2 of. But I'd rather like this.
I don't know.
Yeah, maybe if we ever are to get an investigator who's not able to take weapons, it's better. Because I think
Carolyn, but she can't take Survivor.
Yeah, there's that.
Which is why she sucks, yeah. Joking.
I think this one's just got a lot of ifs about it. I feel.
There's an archetype out there that's kind of getting built. I think it still needs some more support. That super discard survivor. And I'm not sure who it fits in. Like, Cornered is an obvious cornerstone to it. But you need 4 XP to get there.
Yeah.
And I don't know. These improvised cards are okay. Winging it is pretty good. The other 2 I'm super lukewarm on.
Yep.
Well, as dumb luck would have it, our next card is an event. It's 2 cost. It's called Dumb Luck. It has 2 agility icons, fortune traded. Fast, play after you fail a skill test by 2 or less during an evasion attempt against a non-elite enemy. Place that enemy on top of the encounter deck. Fortune favors the oblivious. Possibly my favorite flavor text in the game. Besides Thud, because that one's pretty good.
Besides Thud.
Yeah. So immediately what's funny is, like, Survivor's getting these nice little packages of, like, hey, here's something for each of the little aspects of the game. We talked about the improvised ones just recently. This is look what I found for evading, right?
I remember that's how it was when it was revealed to us before the pack actually came out. That was kind of our consensus. Like, look what I found is great, and this is that, but for evading.
That said, look what I found gets you double the benefit for what you were trying to do to begin with. This, I don't know if it's quite that easy to evaluate it that way. In solo, this sucks because putting the enemy on top of the encounter deck, you're just going to draw it again.
Mm-hmm.
I like it more in multiplayer, but I still don't know how often. I still have yet. I've played it in one deck. think I put it in Calvin just at some point because I was like, all right, well, so at some
what
point,
do you put in Calvin?
I think if you're playing 2-player, especially, and the lead investigator is a guardian, and you know,
go first guardian is a thing.
Yeah, right. Like, and you can put anyone
take
on top
the
of the
initiative,
deck.
man.
Yeah. I think this is pretty decent. I actually have a rules question that I don't know, and I'm not 100% sure. So, what if you have was that Serpents of Yig, and you evade it? Like, they're not elite, are they? Or like any Stubborn Detective, and you evade it, and it goes on top of the encounter deck. But it's a player card.
I guarantee you this gets errata to say non-weakness enemy.
Yeah, that does seem like a mistake. Because so many other cards specify non-weakness enemy.
Yeah. Or there's got to be a
rule
rule about,
the FAQ entry on Arkham D. Is that a exact question?
Ooh.
Because the answer is dumb luck can only return a card to the deck from whence it came.
Okay.
Yeah.
So your signature weakness would just not go away?
Yeah.
Okay.
You just the effect just fizzles.
Yeah.
Dumb luck.
Solo, this is horrible.
Yeah.
Multiplayer, I can see it.
I will say there are a few very distinct times I was like, man, I kind of wish I had dumb luck in my hand right now.
Really?
And that is when I'm up against a 3 frickin' Doom Brotherhood cultist.
That is fair.
It's like, it would be really cool to be able to just toss him on top of the encounter deck right now.
Mm-hmm. This seems
because I'm not hitting the evades and I'm not hitting the attack.
This seems like a really good option for Wendy with adaptable for specific scenarios where there's going to be something like that with Doom on enemies or goodness, what's the third scenario in Carcosa where you're in the historic society?
Echoes
the Past.
Echoes. I was gonna say unspeakable echoes. Oh my god.
Echoes of the Past, right? Like the big Doom stuff.
Yeah.
Sean, anything with those cultist Brotherhood guys are annoying as hell.
And I would say if attachments on enemies becomes a more prevalent problem, we have a few, but it's not a common thing. If that becomes a more prevalent problem, then its stock increases because if you throw it on top of the encounter deck, it's going to lose all its buffs.
Like Undimensioned and Unseen, when those beasts get buffed, evading it.
Elite.
No, they're not.
No, they're not elite.
Right.
No.
Yeah. That was the big thing when that scenario came out.
That's right.
Unless you're playing Return. Spoiler alert.
Yeah.
Oh, I haven't gotten that far yet. That's cool.
Yeah. Well, it's in a much cooler way than one would be led to believe. Yeah.
Nick. Oh, Sean, go ahead.
No, I didn't have an actual thought. Go ahead.
Oh, okay. Nick, I am desperate for you to read the next card.
Oh, Yaudle. I'm just going to go into it. Lost Son of Esli. He's a 3-resource costed level 1 survivor asset with 1 will skill icon. Ally and Wayfarer traits. Wayfarer. His game text reads...
So he's a human who turns into a fair?
Yeah, exactly.
We're werewolves, not swearwolves.
Sorry. His game text reads, free action, exhaust Yaudle. During this skill test, you get a bonus to each skill equal to the number of matching skill icons on the top card of your discard pile, not counting wild icons. Oh, sad face. And then free action, discard the top card of your deck, limit once per turn. He has 2 health and 2 sanity and takes up your ally slot. So he didn't...
I believe he's been eroded too. It's limit once per phase now.
Okay.
So whether you're playing 1 player or 4 player, you get the same amount of times you can flip it.
Yes, because turn is technically each investigator takes a turn within the investigating phase.
Yeah. Anyway,
so Nick. he didn't invent an archetype, but he certainly brought it to the next level.
Oh boy, did he!
Yeah.
Desperate Duke is
Oh.
super fun.
Yes.
It's super easy to get to because you literally need 2 experience. As standalone, you can play it quite easily with 9 experience. With a charisma, 2 Peter Sylvester upgraded, 2 Yowdles. It's a super fun deck to play, especially if you get St. Hubert's Key in there. You literally play St. Hubert's Key, now you're desperate. And being able to chuck a card to the skill test and then exhaust Yowdle to basically essentially double that, and now you're like +8 from your skill card. Pretty good.
I mean, you also can discard the skill that you're about to use to ready him and then crank him again. Like, Now, outside of Ashcan, who can innately ready him and get more use, what has your guys' experience been?
Haven't touched him.
Okay, well then allow me to say a few things.
Yeah, please.
I've played him in Silas.
That would be a good idea. Yep.
I don't think he's as effective as Desperate Duke, just because there's just not so many icons, about, and he can't ready as easily. But still solid. And then I've also played a really janky ass Agnes that uses scrying, like level 3 scrying. And Yowdle can get rid of Dark Memory off the top of her deck if you see it.
Oh yeah.
Do you think that Yorick build that uses Inspiring Leadership, because I know you include Inspiring Leadership into Desperate, or at least I did when I built my Desperate Duke, do you think there's room in Yorick for this guy? Or is Yorick a little more focused?
Or Silas.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, you can put it inside. Never mind then. I guess that ground's already been tread for the most part.
I don't know if it's worth...
The splash in Pete.
Oh, I've used Inspiring Leadership in Desperate Duke, and I like it.
Yeah.
Well, it's worth the splash in Pete because he's got Duke to use it on as well.
Right. Trying to think of, you could also get access to Venturer. Never mind. Level 2 Beat Cop, I guess.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, like I have to admit my experience is limited to Desperate Duke, and he performs that.
Sure. Well, and it seems like going that route with Yorick would be a suboptimal route. Like when you look at Yorick's strengths overall, going ally heavy probably wouldn't be the way to go.
Yeah.
So I've yet to try it, but I don't mind him in a Colors of the Rainbow icons min. If you're see, the thing is with him, the way he works, you kind of have to look at your icon mix a little bit differently, because those wild icons suddenly, if you're trying to use him, become less attractive. So yeah, I hope we get a level 3 or 4 Yowdle that counts wild icons at some point, because then the game is afoot.
I think that would be broken, personally. I think all he does is he makes you use your unexpected courages on your first turn, or your first test. You know what I mean? Yeah. That's pretty much all he does. He just make sure you put something above it. That's it.
Yeah. Or not pack unexpected courages. Yeah,
or take something else. Yeah. Which with the card pool we currently have is totally feasible to do.
My favorite play...
I just think...
Oh, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, I think he requires a really specific strategy that only a few investigators can really pull value out.
Yes, but I don't... no, never mind. I was going to say, I don't think he's a bad add to decks that do a different strategy, but actually he probably is, because he takes up that ally slot, and that is still the most contested slot for good cards. So
he has decent soak, too. Like, he can take 1 and 1. He's a fine clothes before he dies.
He's wearing fine clothes on top of fine clothes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, Nick, it's your last chance to read a card.
I just read Yowdle.
Sean, it's your last chance to read a card. Sorry, I took a bit of a gambit there.
Okay, 2.
Yikes. Okay, so last chance is a level 0 survivor skill. It has 5 wild icons, but wait. Sorry, it has the gambit trait. Commit only to a skill test with no other cards committed to it. Other cards cannot be committed to this skill test. And Last Chance loses 1 wild icon for each card in your hand.
Did you see that, guys? Did you see that? Flavor home run. Right there. Just over the wall. Yep.
This one's interesting.
I keep forgetting it has 5 icons. I keep thinking it has 4, and I just want to pan it immediately. But seeing 5 actually changes. It doesn't change my mind. It doesn't change my mind, but it makes me look at it a second time before I pan it.
Like, if I'm playing this for 3 icons, I'm still pretty happy with it.
Yeah, I mean, we play Inquiring Mind all the time.
Yeah.
That's true. I don't know why.
And this one can be committed to another investigator's test.
That's true.
Which is a thing.
But you're only committing it.
Yeah.
Yes, that's true.
And you know what? If you're running that, like that deck archetype we kind of mentioned with Cornered and stuff, where you're discarding a bunch of cards, or maybe you're Wendy.
You can discard this to Cornered.
Yeah, exactly. But you
can use Yowdle.
Yeah.
This is the anti-Yowdle card.
It's all coming together. You can use this, like, your strategic hand management. I kind of like maybe one of these in a deck. But I don't think I'd ever go 2, just because it's anti-synergy with itself.
You see this early game and you're sad.
Yeah,
right.
Absolutely.
Who do you put this in? Do you put one of this in any survivor, or do you pick and choose?
I think Wendy.
Sure, I can see that.
Ash can.
Okay.
I don't know about Silas. I find like my hand stays pretty full with Silas because
Silas rocks a big hand.
Yeah.
I think this one you just look at for any investigator who's gonna just be actively committing cards a lot and thus will have a smaller hand size.
I think think Wendy. No,
Min generally has a bigger hand.
Yeah, because the Seekers you're going to be filling your hand. I think Wendy's the only one that I really like this in. Simply because you can discard for every single token draw. Whereas Ashcan, that's a once per turn, right? Or once per phase. So
once per turn, yeah.
Yeah, so that limits you as well, which granted, I mean, Ashcan does tend to run a lower hand, but I think Wendy, you're able to set yourself up for this in a beneficial way without having to jump through hoops, easier than anyone else, and so it looks more attractive there.
And I'll even go out and say that there's a lot of cards that we look at and I'm like, oh yeah, this works on standard, but on hard, I probably wouldn't play it. I think this gets way better on hard and expert in Wendy because you're going to be redrawing more often.
Yeah.
And you're more likely to end up with just this in your hand. And
you're more likely to commit way more icons to an important test.
Yeah, like putting 5 on a test in expert can be make it or break it. And I would say on expert Wendy, I would pack 2 last chances. Even on hard, probably.
Interesting.
Just because I find like when I'm playing standard, I don't redraw as much as Wendy, but when I'm playing hard and expert, like I redraw like a fiend. Because you're just failing like 25% more, 50% more. Like it's a significant jump.
Right. Interesting. I'll have to give it a try. I keep saying I want to play Wendy solo again, and I haven't yet. I built all these solo decks recently, but I haven't built Wendy yet.
Wendy solo now is just, it's great.
Yeah, with that bow now especially, I can't. Oh man.
Wendy in any game mode right now is just great. She has just got some really good things to do.
Yeah.
I don't know. Wendy in an all-seeker team would be pretty garbage.
Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry. You meant official game modes.
All yellow all the time, plus Wendy.
Slightly orange all the time.
Yeah.
A hue slightly darker than yellow. All right.
Well, that was our last chance at a good joke, and I don't know how we ended up.
Not great.
Oh, it was terrible. Favorite card? Nick or Sean?
Yowdle? Is there anything else?
Yeah, I gotta go Yowdle. Honestly, because he's just the most fun.
He's the most fun. He's the most, I don't want to say the most consistent, but again, he took an archetype that technically already existed, but he made it like super good.
He took an archetype that people were messing around with and made it into something that you would build a standalone deck around.
Yeah.
To take into standalone games.
Yeah, he did more for the class than any cards here. So.
Yep.
I would agree.
Yeah. Right on. Well, we all agreed that shouldn't happen.
I mean, you saw this set of cards, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like I said, it's going to go a certain way.
Ifs built into them.
Yeah. All right.
I'll try to be more neutral next time.
Oh my god, you did it.
Woo! You did it.
All right.
Simos!
Thanks for joining us for another episode of AV Club, a Mythos Busters production. Stay tuned, we have a very special episode on the best class there is coming right up.